Hi, my name is Alex and I welcome you to today's video. While the original Subnautica was released for Sony's and Microsoft's consoles some time ago, Switch players are finally getting the game for their handheld hybrid. It gets even better. The sequel, Subnautica Below Zero, is being released at the same time, which means I'll be reviewing both games in today's video. As happens so often in the survival genre, the basic idea is that with enough ingenuity, survival is possible even in the worst situations. This is where the masses of mostly mediocre survival titles that have flooded the gaming market in recent years hook in. Subnautica, on the other hand, does things differently here. Instead of placing the protagonist on a deserted island with water as a natural barrier, the sea itself becomes the setting for the story. The story is quickly told in its main features. The crew of the Aurora is supposed to build a phase gate in the orbit of planet 4546b when their spaceship crashes due to an initially unexplained malfunction. As a nameless crew member, you manage to board one of the escape pods but are knocked out by flying metal parts. When you wake up, your escape pod is the only one still floating on the surface of the almost exclusively water-covered planet. Your goal? To explore the underwater world and somehow find a way home. Of course, this is not easy. Apart from the fact that you're all alone on a huge ocean at the beginning of the game, you also lack the necessary raw materials to produce important equipment such as diving gear and radiation protection suits, or tools such as scanners and compasses. And then there's the matter of food. Because in the main game mode, you'll also have to make sure that you regularly consume water and food so that you don't die. At the same time, the game's fascination becomes more than clear in the first few minutes. When you get your feet wet for the first time and dive past colorful schools of fish through cave systems or scour the beautifully designed biomes in search of materials such as titanium or copper, it quickly becomes clear that Subnautica's lively game world not only contains a lot of work, but also a huge portion of passion. Everything feels coherent and consistent. The underwater controls are among the best the genre has brought forth so far, and even the wreckage of escape pods and the Aurora itself scattered on the seabed blend perfectly into the picturesque environment. With the help of a scanner, you can create blueprints. These blueprints are the basis for the mobile vehicle station, for example, with which you can create various underwater vehicles or advanced tools such as the laser cutter. This wide range of possibilities to use the planet's resources is actually motivation enough to enjoy the excellent soundtrack and the literally opulent game depth. However, Subnautica can't always prevent the potential gaps that remain in the gameplay flow. Especially in the starting areas, it can take a while until you find certain resources. Of course, Subnautica Below Zero doesn't try to turn the gameplay completely upside down. The hoverbike is the first vehicle that only works on land, which clearly shows that the land plays a bigger role this time. However, if you try to avoid the water because of this, you will also miss out on the once again beautifully designed game world and the new underwater creatures. But above the water surface, there's already much more going on. Strangely glowing plants bloom on the islands, curiously following your every move. Various creatures wander between snow-covered rocks and dive for food, and hot springs steam away invitingly. What is a clear difference to the predecessor, however, is the much more dominant story focus than in Subnautica. Robin is a protagonist with real depth compared to Riley. The conversations with her sister Sam, who works at the Vesper, contribute a lot to this, as they simply make the plot more vibrant. Since our test is supposed to be spoiler-free, I won't go into the story any further. The mechanics remain much the same. Nevertheless, there are always minor improvements that make life under and above the water easier. Since Subnautica has struggled with some technical issues on consoles in the past, it's all the more interesting to see how the two games run on the Switch. Both games run at 30 frames per second most of the time. In more elaborate scenes, the frame rate can sometimes drop below the 30 mark. Nevertheless, these drops never affected my gameplay experience. The underwater worlds still look beautiful on the Switch, even if you have to make sacrifices in terms of resolution and texture quality. I found the still wide draw distance particularly fascinating, as I was a bit worried about this beforehand. So let's come to a conclusion. Overall, the developers delivered two good ports of Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero for the Nintendo Switch. The breathtaking landscapes and the great atmosphere as well as the untypical setting make both games some of the best the genre has to offer. If you are into the survival genre and have been looking for this kind of game for your Switch for a long time, you should definitely get it. For these reasons, I rate Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero for the Nintendo Switch an 8 out of 10. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. If you liked it, we would be very happy about a like and a subscription, or if you are interested in getting early access to our future reviews, feel free to visit our Patreon page.
Closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.